And I realized went around the circle, everyone had great numbers to share and great things to share. And I had nothing to share. And so I was embarrassed, and I finally understood what I should be doing. And so you better believe I did not want to go to another one of those without having something to share. And I was so excited to get started so that I could have numbers to share and things to share and be proud of myself. And so that very next day, I started basically the checklist all over again. Okay, this is what I'm going to do today. And I'm going to, I was so excited to go that next Monday.
Hi, I'm Carla Higgins, and this is the Double Duty Agent Podcast. I am so glad you're here. Each week we get together and we explore the stories of successful double duty real estate agents. And from their stories, you can find the solutions to overcoming your challenges and the keys to unlocking your success. Are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome back to the Double Duty Agent Podcast. I'm always excited, but I am super excited today. I have Cody Melvin with me. And if you remember back, Jeffrey Melvin was with us a few weeks ago and told us his double duty story and how the Melvin team got started in Atlanta. And today we get the true story. Today we get to find out from Cody if everything we heard is absolutely true. No, I'm sure it is, but there's always two sides to every story. And news alert, the Melvin team was the #1 team in their market center this month, which is super exciting. So we have an absolute rock star leading an absolute rock star team today. So Cody, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I love listening to your podcast. So this is a true honor.
Thank you so much. Well, I know that this is going to be inspiring, but we have to start off with, if you're on YouTube, you have got to see that. Can you just let them see your Christmas tree?
It's upside down.
Is that not the best? I love that. I love everything about it. I love that it's upside down. I actually think they should have been that way because it looks so fun with the ornaments hanging down.
It's fun to lay on the floor and look up at the ornaments. We did that with our kids when they were little. So
I love it. So you've done that tree that way for a long time.
A long time. We've moved it to several houses. It is a pain. It's the hardest one that we put together, but my daughter cries if we don't. And she's 17, almost going off to college. And she just begs and begs. And so we're like,
got to have that. And I agree. So if you stop doing it, I'm going to cry too.
Yeah, I do that as a side hustle. I may talk about that later. I'm not sure if we'll get there, but I decorate other people's houses for Christmas. And so this is a little,
side, okay, we're definitely going to do that. We'll definitely do that. But Cody, first we're going to get into your original, the very, very beginning of real estate. Let's start there. So tell me how you got into real estate.
Well, it wouldn't be conventional for sure, but I was the kid on a Saturday morning who was not watching cartoons. I was watching Home Time and This Old House with Bob Vila. We didn't have HGTV.
I know.
There was no fun like home improvement shows back then. So those were kind of boring, but I loved just watching like improvements made. And so I would say I've always loved homes and the feeling of home and improving something. And so I guess my desire led me into an interior design. So I started my career in interior design. I got my degree from UGA, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it, but I went into model homes and clubhouses, decorating those with a company. And then I got married right after college to Jeffrey, and that was a lot of traveling. I was gone a lot. And so I transitioned into graphic design. And so then this is a long story, but I had always loved home. I wanted to do flips, and I felt like you had to have money to make money. And so it just always felt like a hindrance. And Jeffrey we did ministry for about 15 years, and there's not a lot of money in ministry. And so we never felt like we had the leg up to do a flip or to get into that business. But when I was in graphic design, we took a brief stint. We lived in Georgia. I've lived in Georgia since I was 3, but we took a brief stint out in Austin, Texas. So we were there for 2 years, and a job that I got doing graphic design for a company was for a commercial real estate firm. And then when we decided to move back to Georgia, I was lucky enough to keep that job, and I worked from home from this very room doing that 9 to 5. And I really learned the back end of real estate, learned the terms, started to learn the vocabulary and kind of the ins and outs. But I never really had a desire to do it for myself, especially not the commercial. Yeah. But then Jeffrey, at that time when we had moved back to Georgia, had started his real estate career. He just kept pestering, come on, you got to do this with me. You got to do it with me. You got to do it with me. And I was almost 40. I was 39 and was not really itching to start a new career. I was like, no, I don't want to start something new. but he just kept pushing and saying, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. You're going to be great at it. Just study, just take the test. We'll see where it goes. And so I said, all right, if you can't beat them, join them. So that was in 2021. So that was the beginning, probably spring of 2021. I decided, okay, I'll do the online course. And I took probably a little over 3 months to do the course. And then I thought, I don't know if I'm going to pass this test, but
we love that test.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I just kept hearing, this is not really what it's like. The test isn't really like what real estate is about, but I did pass. And so that was June of 2021. And so
June of 2021. And so you just joined your husband and that's when you created a team?
That's when we created a team, and he had the foresight to name himself when he was doing it for very beginning, the Melvin Team, even though it was just him. So yeah, it just worked.
I love that. Do you know the story about Gary Keller and the name?
No.
When he was just in Austin and had one market center, he answered the phone, Keller Williams International.
No way.
Yes. And so now we're 58 countries and we're Keller Williams International, but he was always Keller Williams International. He spoke it into existence just like Jeffrey did. How about that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, I continued to do my 9 to 5 job, every day, but then was trying to add this as well. So that's when I became double duty.
Double duty. Okay. And then how long were you double duty before you decided that you were going to be full-time real estate?
It was pretty quick. My heart really just wasn't in the full-time job anymore. And it was very apparent that I had just kind of hit that ceiling of I could keep working harder and harder, but I wasn't going to make any more doing that. And so my heart just really was, anxious to learn more about real estate and go to team meeting and go to masterminds and really glean information. And so my heart kind of broke that I was missing that kind of stuff because of my 9 to 5. And so that's when we kind of knew, all right, it's time to make a shift and we're going to do this. So it was about 6 or 7 months. So it was, I guess I would say pretty quick, but.
Okay. And then how did that transition go?
I really didn't know what I was doing. We were scared to make the jump into 2 people on commission only. And Jeffrey did take a role in leadership, which gave him a very small salary to make me have a little confidence that we would be able to pay the bills, but not too much. So I honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to lead gen. I didn't know how to time block or any of those things. And so, Jeffrey might come home and be like, okay, did you do all your lead gen? Did you do this and that? And I'm like, I don't know. And every day. So I finally said, stop saying the word lead gen to me.
Call it something else.
What is this lead gen you speak of? Like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm just such a list and task check off the box that it just felt very foreign to me. So I wouldn't say the transition was easy or natural, but we made it work. So
I love that. Well, here's the first thing. And I always have to tell brand new agents this. You know how many agents were brand new at one time?
Yeah,
all of them. And how many of them already knew how to do the job? None of them.
And I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. And it was for me that I needed all the details. I needed to know the process. I needed to know exactly what to do before doing it. And that's not how it works. That's really not. You get better each time. That's not you can't perfect it before you do it.
It's an OJT kind of thing, on the job training. That's how we get it, right? I really kind of wish they really called it an apprenticeship. Right. If they called it an apprenticeship, I think our mindset would be different, because I think I have a friend whose son is in the electrician union apprenticeship program. And the goal of that is learning, right? Earning while you learn. And I think that if we had, I don't know, I always think that if we had a different language. So all of you out there that are brand new agents, just consider yourself an apprentice, and then you'll feel better.
Yeah. And I wish there was a little training program called like that you could step into that would give you more confidence, because I did not have the confidence that maybe I should have or could have, just thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm too new. I'm inexperienced. I don't measure up. I don't qualify.
I have a question for you, Cody. I've never made this connection until just you and I were just talking. So you have, how many children do you have?
We have 3.
Three. So your very first one,
Hmm.
did you have confidence that you were going to be a good mother?
Absolutely not.
I called my mom a week before my son was born and I said, "Oh my gosh, I've made a mistake." And she said, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I said, "I can't do this." And she said, "What do you mean you can't do this?" And I said, "Look, I never babysit for babies. I babysit for kids, right? I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
even really been around a baby. I was 5 when my brother was born and I didn't like him, right? I didn't want a baby, right? I made a mistake." And she said, "Honey, you can't go back on this one. This isn't a mistake you get to undo." And
That's
so
right.
I'm like, I was in panic mode. And about a week after he was born, she called me and she said, "How are things going?" And I said, "Oh, great. You know, he's still not sleeping through the night, but we're making what, which is whatever." And because it wasn't perfect, I promise. And she said, "Yeah, you told me you couldn't do it." And I said, "Nobody give me a chance. They told me I had to. I had to figure it out." Right? It's the same thing. Do you feel the same? Do you
Absolutely.
connect with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I
We
mean,
could all go back to other things that we've done. I imagine when you started interior design, even though you had a degree in it, you didn't know
oh,
exactly what to do. So,
and and I would say that's a characteristic of me as a person too, is I always have a huge imposter syndrome. I I think a little bit of it is okay because it helps you to learn and grow and you want to do better. And so if I said I knew everything at this point, first of all, I'd be lying. But second of all, that wouldn't make me a very good student or agent because I would give up on the learning part. And so I think a little bit of imposter syndrome is okay, but I had way too much of it. And in any job, I always felt like I don't qualify. I don't measure up. Even like you said, I had a degree in interior design and I didn't feel good enough. So
yeah, I honestly, Cody, don't think that that's unique to you. I have that experience and I coach agents, and I think that everyone has that. I was at a conference last week and they were talking about imposter syndrome. And somebody on the panel said, "You know what? Everybody's an imposter when they start something new."
mhm,
Right?
mhm,
Everybody is. And
mhm.
so if you just acknowledge that that's the reality, then I think that makes that better. It's just that at some point we have to let it go as well. And it's really hard for us to identify our gifts, our strengths, what we're really
Yes.
good at. And
Yes.
and that's the shame of it all.
Yes.
Okay. So the first 6 months before you switched, and we
Hmm.
weren't quite figured out what lead gen was, and we wanted to call it something different. Did you come up with a new name for it?
No, I didn't, but I just started making checklists and
Uh-huh.
that's how I made it happen is that
Okay.
I
So
have
what's
to have
what's
a,
something
a
that might
box
have
to
been
check.
on the checklist? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, when Jeffrey came home that last time and I was like, stop saying it. Just give me a checklist. Tell me what to do. Because I was so used to having a boss or
Mhm.
somebody to tell me this is how you do the
Oh,
job.
yes.
And now all of a sudden I'm my own boss and everyone gets into this because it's like this great flexible schedule and all of that. But
Mhm.
I had no idea what to do. And so,
Yes.
and he's wonderful, but he wasn't giving me like he wasn't my boss per se. He
Right.
was just, my teammate now. And so I said, fine, let's work through it. Give me a task list. Tell me what we would constitute as lead gen. And so we did, and it was making calls. That's the big one, right? Making
Mhm.
calls and
Mhm.
texts, going on Facebook and Instagram and liking things, commenting on things, inboxing people. That was a big one. Writing handwritten cards. Those were some of the big ones. But I am just not, I was also not great at social media. I don't love that sector of life. And so I really kind of bucked the system on that one. But when he gave me those tasks, I was like, okay, I can like 5 things or 10 things. I can do
Yeah.
that. I
Be
can comment
intentional.
on 10 things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that I don't want to do that. It's just not my natural bent. I'm more introverted. It's not my natural gifting to pick up the phone and call somebody to keep in touch with them. It's more if I hear your story, I want to know about it. I want to talk to you about it. I care deeply. It's just not my natural gifting to like be extroverted and want to pick up the phone. So
To
or
do that.
yeah, to do that. And so
Okay.
it's training. I've had to
It
train
is.
myself.
It is.
Mhm.
I have an agent that calls it love gen instead of lead gen.
Yes,
And I
yes, I
like
have
that.
heard that. I
Yeah,
love that.
just
Yes.
yeah, we're called to love on people. And I think that all started during COVID when we were making care
Yeah.
calls. But just because COVID is, thank goodness, gone, it doesn't, or not gone, but not what it was, it doesn't mean that we can't still care. People still
Oh,
need
right.
to hear that somebody cares about them. So
Yeah.
I love
Yep.
the concept. But I love this, right? Just make a list. This
Mhm.
is how many calls. Was it specific? This is how many
It
calls.
was
This
for
is
the
how
week.
many.
I tried to hit 100 for the week. And
100 for the
so
week.
I pulled up that DTD2. And so, and that was one of the first things, was getting all my contacts into my database, or the CRM that we use is Command. And so putting all those people in there, organizing it, starting making notes, trying to get as organized as possible, also gathering addresses for handwritten cards in my neighborhood, doing 5 a day in my neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods, trying to gather all of that information. And so just trying to get organized. I need clarity. I need details. That's just my personality. So I work
in organization. For the listeners, that she just said DTD2, and we've talked about that in the past, but I got a surprise for y'all. Next week's episode is Steve Schlueter, who is one of the 2 authors of the Never Ending Referrals program, which is where the DTD2 comes from. So in a week from now, if you don't know what Cody's talking about, you're going to get all of the details directly from the inventor of it, the mastermind behind it. And I love it. Cody, you and I are very similar with this list and tasks. And I'm so bad that if I do something and it's not on my list, I write it on my list so I can mark it off.
Absolutely. Same. Yeah. I love a checkbox.
Oh yeah. And that's at the end of the day. That's my sense of accomplishment, is what did I get checked off? So if I did something, I got to add it on there.
Yeah. It made it feel more like I could feel like I had been productive and that I had gone to work. And then I'm like, okay, I did these things. That was my work day. And even if it was 2 to 3 hours, well, I couldn't do anything else until I had accomplished those things on the list. And I live and breathe by my calendar. So if it's on there, it will get done. And I heard that
if it's not on there,
and the older I get too, I can't hold as much in this little brain of mine, or maybe I have so much in there. That's what we'll say, that it's too much in my brain, but I can't.
One of the things that I've had to do is train myself to not say yes until I checked my calendar, because I am still notorious, even though I live and die by my calendar, I am notorious for going to my calendar to put something on it and finding out there's already something there.
Yes.
Which is no fun. It actually happened this morning. So
oh gosh,
confession there. This morning I still did it, even though I'm working hard at that. I want to go back to one thing, because you mentioned that you'd always had a boss. And now you were your own boss, or part of a team, but you were each other's boss. You were each your own boss. And I think this is a big mindset adjustment, especially for all agents. Doesn't matter if you have a W-2 job or not, but particularly for the double duty agents that have a W-2 job, because they actually have to make that switch every day. Like turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or how did you overcome that feeling that I don't have a boss?
That's a good question. I will say, like, during those 6 months, I just had to work so hard for the 9 to 5. It's the task list, like getting my task list done to the best of my ability, doing my job really well. But then when I turned that off, or if I had a lunch break and I needed to catch up on things, then I would have to switch to that task list. And okay, I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. And I didn't do it well in the beginning. I felt like I was not putting the big rocks in. If you know anything about the 80-20 principle, I feel like I have really had to work and rework and train myself on this one. And it doesn't magically happen. You have to put the work in, but the 80-20 principle is saying that 20% of the work you do is going to make 80% of the
results.
The results. There you go. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah. And so I think everyone loves the 80% a whole lot more than they love the 20. And I'm guilty of that. The 80 is usually more fun. Sometimes it feels more reliable because you can check it off. Or
it's also task oriented, which we both love. It's task oriented. And usually it's not about growing our business. It's about doing our business.
Right.
And I think that's the difference.
And that's the things I gravitated towards. So when I'd shut off my 8 to 5 job or 9 to 5 job, I'd go and want to do the marketing or the passive and not the prospecting, because it was just easier. I had seen a video the other day, and my daughter's softball coach sent it to me, and I thought, this is so great for life, but it's also good for work. And it's, if you have a jar and you put 20 golf balls in it and it feels full, but then you can still fit a whole cup of pebbles in it. And then it feels really full, but then you can put a whole cup of sand in it, and then you're really filling in the gaps. But if you had put the sand in first and then the pebbles. You would never fit the 20 golf balls. And so
Yeah.
it's really learning to put the big rocks in. And so the video that he shared is the big rocks are your family and your religion and your beliefs and your home life and the things that like really matter to you, your
Taking
spouse.
care of yourself, self-care.
Yes,
I'm
self-care,
preaching
mental health,
self-care
all
all the
those things.
time. I have to throw that in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then maybe the pebbles are your job and your bills and all those things. And then the sand is just everything else. It's, scrolling on TikTok or whatever. It's all the other stuff. And so if you constantly do all the other stuff, you'll never get to the big rocks.
Stuff.
And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I was really struggling with that when I had the 9-to-5 job and then this other thing and then my family. And I'm a mom of 3 kids and
It's a lot.
I'm running a household. Yeah, it's a lot. And so I was like, okay, we got to reprioritize here. And so that's where the shift changed into, okay, I think I want to do this full time. But also I really just needed to make sure I wasn't missing stuff for my kids and I wasn't neglecting myself, like you said, self-care. And yeah. So.
We don't want to look up one day and have you read the book, what is it? The 5 Regrets of the Dying?
No.
Oh, you should look that up, but
Okay.
be prepared. It's going to move your whole, it's going to change your perspective on a lot of things, but it's really going to, you get some tissues.
Okay. Oh.
But that's an amazing, amazing book. But the number one regret was that they felt like they were living somebody else's life.
Oh, wow.
Not their own. So that's a big one. So one thing I think is really interesting about the 80-20 principle, and I thought about this, is that when we have a W-2 job, when we have a job, somebody else decides what our big rocks are because we have job responsibilities. And if we don't do what they tell us to do, well, then we aren't going to have that job very long. But when we switch over to being our solo business, we own our own business and we work for ourselves. Now all of a sudden we have to figure out what those are. And when left to our own devices, sometimes we're going to stay in the comfort zone.
Right. Absolutely. So, exactly. And I would say that's my comfort zone is that more passive, more, I'm just I wouldn't say I'm super introverted, but my natural bent is to be introverted. And so it's easier for me to do with the graphic design. I love the marketing piece of it. So that's what I want to work on. Plus
it's already something that you were good at. Right, like we all want to stay where we're good, right? That's where we feel good. That's where we get flow, right? You get flow when you're good at something. And sometimes just because we're good at it doesn't mean it's the only thing that we should be doing. And yeah, I love that. All right. So tell me then, we've switched to full-time real estate. And so we're still double duty though, because we're a full-time mom. Full-time wife, full-time family. See, this is why I call it double duty and not dual career, because it doesn't go away. And so now we're going to build a team. Tell me how that came about.
Let's see. I don't know that it really came about like thinking it like that, but I would say my mind shift started changing when I got invited to go to an accountability meeting. And so I pushed against it. I was like, no, I'm good. And our market center had just started this and it was like every Monday, 9 a.m., just like if you were at a
going to work
9-to-5 job. Yeah. You're going to do a team meeting to start the week off. And I just really didn't want to be a part of it. And I don't know why, but I just really bucked
uncomfortable maybe.
Yeah. And Jeffrey finally said, you're going. And so I was at the office for something else. And he said, come sit in this meeting. And so I sat in the corner. I said, okay, I'll sit in here, but I'm not going to talk. I'm not saying anything. And so they went around the room and they shared what they did the previous week, how many calls they made, who had listings, who had new buyers, they go on appointments, things like that. And I realized went around the circle, everyone had great numbers to share and great things to share. And I had nothing to share. And so I was embarrassed and I finally understood what I should be doing. And so you better believe I did not want to go to another one of those without having something to share. And I was so excited to get started so that I could have numbers to share and things to share and be proud of myself. And so that very next day, I started basically the checklist all over again. Okay, this is what I'm going to do today. And I'm going to, I was so excited to go that next Monday. Let's just say that I could not wait to.
And you didn't have any problem. Were you the first one? I got
yeah, I was so excited. And so I would say accountability changed my life and it changed our team for sure. Because then, yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So what do you feel like you do differently? What are the actions that are different from before you had that realization and you wanted to have the numbers? What are some activities that you did to be able to be excited on Monday to go back to that meeting?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always say this when I tell anybody this journey that I had was like, okay, I went from feeling like people didn't want to hear from me because maybe it's people I hadn't talked to in 5, 10 years. And I felt really like stupid. I thought they were going to think I was salesy or just out to get something from them. So
Mhm.
it was a major mental roadblock for me to get over that. And I finally just said, you know what? I think it was somebody in the office who said, Cody, people do want to hear from you. Like you were their friend. Give them a call. You don't have to be salesy. Just talk to them. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't like oh, now I feel great about it. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to try it. And so I picked a few that were kind of
Easy.
outliers. Yeah. Okay. Who would I feel the most comfortable with? And I started making a list that way. And it worked great. Somebody said, why don't you try to make a lunch appointment or a coffee appointment once a week? That'll be a great starting point. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick those easy people. And it was amazing. Like it was fun to catch up. It wasn't hard. It's still out of my comfort zone, but I say I had to put my big girl panties on and I just had to do it. And so I feel like I have to put on a different persona when I go into calling mode, texting mode.
Put a hat on. This is
Yeah.
the hat that I'm wearing today. Yeah, this is the hat I got to wear for the next hour or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I love about that is that so often I hear from agents the exact same thing that you said. I can't call my database. They're going to find me salesy. Somebody told me once, I don't want to sound like the Tupperware lady. I don't know about the Tupperware lady, but I do remember being a little girl before I was 5. This memory is before I was 5. And there was a Fuller brush man that would come around door knocking the
Okay.
houses. And I can remember my mom and I hiding in the stairway, and she would be like, shh, we don't want him to know we're here. Right. And so when I first got my license, that memory flooded right back in on me. And I don't know about the Tupperware lady, but I didn't want to be like the Fuller brush man. And
Yep.
some people are listening to this, and Cody, they have no idea what the Fuller brush man is because I'm old and I know that. But anyways, it's the same thing, right? I had this thought, this fear that I was going to be that person.
Right.
And you're exactly right. If you just change the way you look at it, that's why I like love gen or care calls or
Yes.
whatever that is. And if I call somebody when I was an active agent and I called somebody to catch up and I hadn't talked to them in a really long time, I just said that right out of the get-go. I realized we haven't talked in such a long time and I was thinking about you and I wanted to see how are you doing. How could they possibly think that's salesy?
Right. Right. And once I started doing it, I was like, okay, and that wasn't my motivation. It wasn't that. It was, okay, I've started this new career. I could be of help to you. I'm not out just for your business. Like I want to catch up. I want you to know that I care for you. I'm here for you. And maybe down the road, I mean, 99% of my friends are probably not buying a house tomorrow, but that's okay. Like I want you
Thank
to
goodness.
know I could help you. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, letting people know. So that was part of it. Because we had that brief stint in Austin, I was quick to think, well, I don't need to call those people. But then I was like, wait, I can let them know that I could refer them to somebody or
Yeah,
vice
those are
versa.
the
If they
best
know
checks,
anybody.
right? One phone call, 2 phone calls, and you get
Exactly.
a check in the mail.
Yeah. So I did that. And again, I thought I just had it in my brain. I don't know if I was projecting or what, just that they wouldn't want to hear from me. And the response was amazing. The response was like really kind. And part of it too is like, just think about what's the worst thing that could happen. Is somebody going to cuss you out or what? And
Well,
then
and then
again,
to
who
take
cares?
them out of your database because you don't want to work with them anyways. That's a
There you
gift.
go. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So I guess just getting over those fears one at a time, just really like putting on my little cape or my hat or whatever. This is my
Yeah.
different persona for the next few hours and just getting through
So
it.
Cody, does it still feel like a different persona or have you released that a little bit?
I would say if I slack off and get away from it and then I have to go back to it, it's
Mhm.
like training all over again. But
Okay, so
if
it's
I
not
stick
like
with
riding
it,
a bike so much, although it's I'm imagining it's pretty easy.
it is. It is. I just have to gear up and all right, we're doing this today. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like I've unleashed something that's a little bit, and maybe it's even more me than it was before. I just was hiding because I was working from home and able to stay away. Now it's no, this is my personality. I love people. I love I love to care for them.
Well, your comfort level changes. When I first started
Mhm.
this podcast, I was petrified. Every time
Yes.
I had to record a video or talk to somebody new, I would get in the imposter syndrome because I had never done
Yes.
it before. It's exactly what it was. And I would make it mean something. I would tell myself a story and I would make it mean something. And now it's so easy that I'm excited.
Yeah.
They know this. I say it all the time. I'm excited every time I get to do the podcast. If you go back and listen to the first 5 or 6 episodes, I was not excited. They sound
No,
scared.
yeah, even you asking me to do this, I thought, I'm not qualified. Like, Jeffrey, you're qualified. I'm not qualified to do this. And then when I thought about it as more, oh, we're just having a conversation. I can do that. Conversations
Yeah,
are
and
easy.
share. So on your team, it's you and Jeffrey, and then you have other team members as well?
No, it's just us. And
It's
then,
just the two of you. Okay.
so when you said adding a team, now we would like to eventually,
Okay.
but for right
So do
now,
you have
it's just us
leverage
two.
in your business at all?
We do have a transaction coordinator, which she's
Okay.
fantastic. She
Awesome.
handles a lot of, which is funny because I like the checklists and I feel like she
Mhm.
does a lot of the checklists. So I'm a
Mhm.
little jealous of that, but no, we have her. And then we're thinking of hiring like some admin help in the next year.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Awesome. So that's on your 2025 plan.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So tell me about lead generation. We've talked about your sphere of influence and calling your database. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you do for lead generation?
We do some like paid ads and things like that. We do social media. We're trying to get more into being in front of people, but that would be more passive, I guess. So yeah, lead gen is calls, texts, instant or direct messaging, cards, like handwritten cards, not
Mhm.
necessarily just postcards.
So very sphere based.
Yes, we have tried the non-sphere and it just isn't our sweet spot. We do really well in our sphere because I think that comes from having the ministry background is we like to love on people and care for them. And
You're
yeah, I
both
want to make
very magnetic people. You draw people to you. So
oh,
I could see why that would be the
thank
perfect
you.
place for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I kind of just wanted to, and sometimes I still want to hide in Jeffrey's shadow because he's very high eye, very like energetic. Everyone knows and loves Jeffrey, but I'm more like behind the scenes. But I can be outgoing too. So I that's the persona I sometimes have to put on, but it is me. It's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe it's not your comfort. Like it's not that ease, it's not that comfort. So much it's the ego. It's the same place where our limiting beliefs come from. Our ego
Mhm,
wants to protect us and keep us
mhm,
comfortable, and that's where we're going to be our most comfortable. And
mhm.
sometimes we just always to be successful, we have to get a little outside of that. I love what
Yeah.
you said about the checklist and like that's your love. And
Mhm.
so that the fact that the transaction coordinator, you've leveraged that off, that's amazing. Linda McKissick, I heard her say once, and this really resonated with me, is if I do the things that I'm good at, I rob somebody else the opportunity to do what they're great at.
Oh, that's so good. That
I
is
thought
so
that so.
good.
It's a litmus test for me often when I think about things.
Huh.
So
I'm gonna have to, yeah, think
just
about that. And
do that. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah.
So double duty. I know
Mhm.
you mentioned because of the Christmas tree behind you, in addition to having a
Yep.
team and in addition to having a family and being a mom, it sounds
Mhm.
like you're still double duty.
Yeah. So this time of year, when we lived in Austin, I had a great friend. Her name is Karen. She kind of wrote me in. She knew about my interior design background. She said, "Hey, you should come do this with me." And so we started doing people's homes for Christmas. And so that was a great way to make money to pay for Christmas gifts
Christmas.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so when we switch into real estate, usually this time of year is a little bit slower. And so it's a great way for me to have some creative outlet and just some fun. And people love to come home and their whole Christmas is up. They didn't have to do a
Yeah.
thing. So
I still don't
that's
have my Christmas up, but I'm in Indiana and
no,
I don't think you're going to make it up here for me.
no, probably not. But I was flying back to Austin for many years to do
Okay.
it. And then just last year was the first year I didn't go back to Austin to do that. But this year was quite the opposite. And we have been so busy. So this was like just overkill trying to get all these houses done as well as real estate, as well as my own stuff. So I feel a little crazy this time of
As
year.
well as being the number one team in your market
Well,
center. Oh my
yes,
goodness.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Cody, this is my theory about former double duty agents is that first of all, they'll always be double duty because once you figure out how to do it, you just continue. You can't help yourself. It's either that or it's just that we're just naturally drawn to be that way. I'm not sure. But then the second thing that I know is that usually the double duty just gets more and more and more successful, right? So there's that old adage, right? If you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah,
I,
that's so
I,
good.
I think there's something to that. So all of you double duty agents out there listening who feel overwhelmed right now, just know that you're going to keep overwhelming yourself from now
Mhm.
until forever. So,
Yep.
so
Yep.
embrace
You
it.
build in some breaks maybe,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
which,
what we have to do, right?
yeah.
That's the energy. At least for me, that's the energetic energizer bunny. Me is that I go 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 go, and then I have to break, right?
Yes.
And then I can be back in it. But if I push through that, my body needing to tell me I need to break, and I think that's why I am such a big proponent on self care,
Mhm.
because when we neglect what our body tells us, then that's when we get ourselves into trouble. So.
Mhm. Mhm.
Love it. All right, Cody, here's what I love to do. I love to go back and sort of summarize three things.
Okay.
So, if you were to think about the choices that
Mhm.
have been most instrumental in your success, what choices do you think you made along the way that were so impactful?
The choice to sign up for accountability, not only going to that one meeting, but then continuing. And then when that didn't happen at the office anymore, actually finding an accountability partner
Oh,
to
yeah.
meet once a week. And if we couldn't do it in person and we do it on Zoom, just to, I mean, it geared me up like going into the weekend, like, okay, I've got this call on Monday. Did I do everything that I said I was going to do? Because talking to somebody else makes it real. If I just keep it to
Yes.
myself, keep my goals to myself, they're probably not as likely to happen. They're definitely not as likely to happen. But if I put
Yeah.
it out there, somebody's holding me accountable. It's like putting it on my calendar for me. It's like if it's on my calendar, it's going to get done. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So,
Yeah.
so that was a big choice of, okay, not only am I just going to show up to this meeting, but I'm going to continue to seek out
Continue to
accountability.
have accountability.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else come to mind?
Making the choice to go full time, that was a hard choice. It was very scary, and it may not be for everybody. That's a terrifying thing to go to all commission, and you just have to be really diligent in. I mean, we had a spreadsheet of like, okay, I made this much on a commission check. I cannot spend all of this. I have to now. I had an Excel spreadsheet that divided that up into 12. Okay, I get this much a month from that, and if I got another closing, okay, I get to add that to my
You get to
monthly.
have
But
more.
we
Yeah.
had to be so diligent with that just to pay the bills, and so that it was very scary, but it was very rewarding too, and it did push me harder to now. Hey, I have to make those calls because I gotta sell a house. I gotta get out there and get the work done, because they say the system works, but you have to work the system.
You do. And you have to be intentional about staying off that roller coaster. And even if you like roller coasters, that real estate roller coaster isn't the one you want to be on. The one where I got a deal. Now I'm going to spend all of my time working on that deal. And then I get that to the closing table and I get a paycheck. And now I have to start all over again.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
But
and that's when you see it. If you get to a closing and think, okay, I'm done. Well, okay. But if you don't do the work, then you're going to not necessarily see that tomorrow, but you're going to see that 30, 60, 90 days out. You're going to, and that happened to me, like when things would slow down in the winter. Well, I may not be doing all these tasks because now I'm focused on my Christmas houses, or
Mhm.
I'm focused on stuff with my kids or whatever. And so I slack off. That may not show up in November, December, but I will definitely see it January, February. And
Yeah.
that stinks. Like when you get to January, February, and like, what do I do? Well, you got to get back on the horse. But the more consistent you are, the more consistent the,
Cody,
the business
do you
will
think
be.
there's any connection between the fact that you said normally this time of the year is slower for you, and then this year, you now
Absolutely.
aren't slower this time of the year? Do you see any
Absolutely.
connection there?
Oh, I sure do. Because last January, February were crickets, nothing happening. And I could go back to the calendar and say, okay, when did I start slacking off? And it was when I was so busy in the summer months
Hmm.
that I just got out of the habits of doing my daily activities. And so
That's that
then
roller coaster.
it's
Yeah.
the roller coaster. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, some people love roller coasters. Everyone's seen the gifts of like, I love this job. I hate this job. I'm rich. I'm
Uh-huh.
poor. I'm great.
Yeah. No,
It's
I
never
don't think
boring.
anybody, even if they love roller coasters, want to be on this one. It's
No,
it's
no.
it's the scariest, right? Because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's it, it's it's absolutely your life that you're playing with if you're doing that. So
Right.
so I love that. Okay, so the choices then of the choice of going full time, as challenging as it was, you found it very rewarding and you don't regret that.
I don't. And in every job I had before, like I said, I mastered it and then gotten to a point where I was like, okay, I'm just on this hamster wheel and I'm not able to advance or make more money or get a promotion anymore. And so this job, the harder I work, the more money I can make and the more successful I can be. And so that's different. It's also never boring. No day is the same as it was yesterday. And for me, that's really good. I do enjoy that it's not monotonous and it's not a hamster wheel. It's different and it's exciting. And I'm a problem solver by nature. And so I love a good problem to solve. And that is all real estate is solving somebody's problems,
Every once in a while you get that easy one and you're like waiting for the other shoe to fall.
What's
going on? Did I do something wrong here? Why is this so easy?
Yes. There's only been a handful
Let's talk
of
about
easy
actions. So what do you think are the maybe one or two most important actions that you do that has led you to your success?
I would say switching my mindset from the marketing to prospecting. So just actually it's a mindset thing. I got to change my mindset in knowing that now I have value, because I went in thinking I have no value. I'm not experienced. I don't have what it takes to measure up in this, to now I know that I'm valuable. I am uniquely qualified and I am valuable. Maybe not to everyone, but to someone. And so every day changing that mindset of, okay, I have value I can give to somebody. So I guess that's more of a mindset thing, but that's the action.
They don't really separate very well, really. If you think about it, right? Action is a choice, right? And you need mindset to make the choice to take the action.
Sure.
So they are. I appreciate the fact that they are all together. All right. So switching from marketing to being prospecting based and making the calls. And then I also heard you say making a list. Kind of Santa. It's Santa time, right? Making a list and checking it twice.
Yes, I do make lists like no one else. And if you erase, you replace, right? That's another little ism. So if I don't do it, I have to do it at some point. So you erase it off your calendar. Well, it doesn't go away. It has to happen. So you just have to move it forward or to another day or another hour or whatever. And like I said, it's not, no 2 days are the same. So it's not that I sit at my desk at 9 and it stays the same. Things are going to happen, but being diligent, being, trying to be wise with my time and,
And you also talked a lot about time blocking. So it sounds like that's something that you really lean into as well.
And I'm pretty good at time management. I do like the 80% better, but sometimes I treat that as more of a reward. That, okay, I can do those little things when I get the big things done. And so
I used to struggle with that. And my coach had me turn my list into two sides. And so on the front side, it has my 80% or my 20. And then on the back side, it has my 80%. And I'm not allowed to turn it over until the front side is done.
Very
smart.
It
was hard. It was really hard, but now it's much easier, right? Anything that's hard eventually gets easier. So they just remember that if this feels really hard, just know it's going to get easier.
It does. And it really does. Like, it becomes more second nature. I have no problem picking up the phone and calling people now, where when I was doing other jobs and even at the beginning of this job, like at my last job, I was answering the phones and I was terrified every time it rang. I was like, please just hang up before I answer the phone. Like, I didn't want to answer.
Do you remember the days when you dial the phone because you had to, and then you would sit there and go, oh, please let me get voicemail. Please let me get voicemail.
Yes. And now I don't know. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's so much more comfortable.
Yeah. It is easier. I mean, it really is. Like, there's still some part of us that's like, no, I still don't want to do it. But it's still easier. It's easier. Okay. So mindset, we already have seeing your value. Right. I love that. Even a brand new agent knows more than most people that you're going to be working with. That's why they're hiring you. You have value. You have value no matter what. We are valuable as human beings. So I love that, identifying that you have value. And there's an exercise in Ignite where you actually do your value proposition. And I think that's such a valuable exercise. Any other mindset shifts, things that changed for you that you can think of that maybe we haven't talked about or you want to hit home again?
I mean, knowing my value, and trying to, and I don't have like a phrase that I would say all the time, but knowing that I am uniquely qualified in a way that somebody else is, because you can throw a rock and hit 30 agents. Like, and that was my biggest thing was, okay, why would this person call me when I'm sure they have another agent that's a friend who's been doing this longer? And so I really had to dig deep. Okay, what is my value? Yes, I'm valuable, but what is it that I would do differently than those other 30 agents you could hit on anywhere. And I had to kind of, I didn't make a list, but I have an ongoing list of, okay, this is what I do well as a professional and as a friend and we wear so many hats as realtors. We're counselors, we're, friends, we do a lot of things that, and so which of those are the most valuable to somebody else? Maybe because moving is hard. Selling and buying a house is hard and it's not always enjoyable. It's emotional. And so I know that I'm valuable because I really do care. I want to be your friend. I want to take your hand and walk you through this every step of the way and make it easy for you. I want to lighten your burden. I want to serve you. So that's.
Yes. And with throwing the rock at 30 agents, you probably are uniquely the only one of those 30 that feel that way. Even if they do to some degree, yours is different, right? And that's the other thing I think is important for agents to realize is that we may not be the right thing for everyone, but for sure we're the right thing for some people because we can think of when we have used our gifts and then benefited someone else. So I love that. I love that so much. All right. Cody, is there anything else that you can think of that I didn't ask you or didn't come up in our conversation that you'd like to share today?
I wrote down that if I don't do this work, there is nobody to blame but me. So I can't blame the market. I can't blame a boss. I can't blame if I didn't do the things on my list or the things that are money-making things. There's nobody to blame but me. And so I can't live like that. And I don't want to live in this blame game of feeling guilty all the time. So I feel very accomplished when I check off the things on the list. I feel like I've had a productive day when I do everything on my calendar. And so I can usually end the day not feeling frazzled or not feeling guilty or not feeling, I feel good. I feel proud of myself. So I guess that, and then this didn't really come up, but I would say role playing is a really great exercise.
Yes.
And that helps you build confidence. And so that was one of the first things somebody asked me to do. A very successful agent in our market center. She said, "Hey, let's role play." And you better believe I was terrified.
Which is so silly because it's not real. Right?
It's not real, right? And she wasn't asking it of me to hurt me. She was doing it to help me.
Nor was she expecting you to be perfect. If she thought you were going to be perfect at it, she wouldn't have asked you to practice. People who are perfect don't practice. Well, they practiced a long time to get with. I don't even know that anybody's perfect, but if somebody's really good at it, it's because they practiced. If they ask you to practice, they don't expect you to not need practice.
Right. And so she said, "Look, we're not going to look at each other. We're going to sit back to back and we're going to role play." And so she did a, ring, ring, and we did this whole role play thing. And so to this day, that's one of my favorite things. It's one of the most terrifying things to me because I don't feel like I know what I'm going to say. But the more I do it, then I'm like, hey, I'm educated in this. I can help somebody with this. So whether it's the changes in the market or the changes in GAR forms, or if it's any kind of, question and like a pushback from a client or why would I hire you? Those kinds of things. I actually love to role play them now. And Jeffrey and I do it sometimes. Just if we have a long car ride, I might ask him to just give me a question, throw it out there at me. And so, I would recommend that.
Oh my gosh, Cody, thank you so much for taking the time for this amazing interview and sharing with our listeners overcoming imposter syndrome and embracing accountability. This was so good. You will find in the show notes how to reach out to Cody if you'd like to talk to her more, create some referral relationships, maybe send some business to the Melvin team in the Atlanta area. Thank you so much for joining us today. And like I mentioned, next week we have a Santa gift. Steve Schleter is going to be with us. And if you struggle with lead generation, you are definitely going to want to hear directly from Steve all about the never-ending referrals system. And until next time, keep pushing forward and know that you too can overcome imposter syndrome if you have it and succeed in real estate, making all your dreams come true. I will look forward to seeing you on Friday for Coach's Corner. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you're leaving inspired and you found a key or two you're going to try out this week to see how they help you to unlock your success. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single story. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find me at doubledutypodcast.com. That link is also in the show notes. Until next time, have a productive week.